For 22 years of my life, I kept myself hidden from the gaze of strangers. I covered myself, believing that my beauty belonged solely to my future husband. I had no idea who he would be, but I was certain that my grace and charm were reserved only for him. I dreamed of the day when I would unveil myself to him, making him the happiest man alive. When my wedding day finally arrived, I was overjoyed and filled with anticipation. Outwardly, I displayed modesty and shyness, but deep down, I was prepared for the moments ahead. I had made up my mind that tonight I would make my husband so content that he would never even glance at another woman for the rest of his life. But my dreams were shattered in the most unexpected way. My husband, without even sparing me a glance, turned to the other side of the bed and fell asleep. At first, I thought he might be tired, but soon I realized it wasn't exhaustion. It was something else entirely. This became a routine. He had seemingly sworn an oath to stay away from me, never touching me, never coming close. They say that physical intimacy makes up about 25% of a person's life. But if this portion is left unfulfilled, the remaining 75% becomes a living nightmare. The absence of this connection turns a person into a prisoner of their own thoughts, making even the simplest daily tasks unbearable. I was experiencing the same torment, both mentally and physically. Nature has instilled certain desires in human beings, and marriage is the sacred means provided by our faith to fulfill them in a rightful way. But what happens when even the lawful path is denied? The human mind begins to crumble under the weight of deprivation. Initially, I thought my husband wasn't unhappy with our marriage, but that he was battling some unknown issue. As a newlywed, I found it difficult to voice my concerns to anyone. My husband was a peculiar man. He wouldn't let me visit my family. Within the first week, he even forbade me from speaking to my mother over the phone. I pleaded with him several times, asking him to let me talk to my mother just once, but he flatly refused. He made it clear that now I belonged only to his household and should forget my past connections. This strict isolation felt suffocating to me, as such practices were unheard of in my family. Days turned into weeks, and soon an entire month had passed since our wedding. Yet my husband showed no desire to come close to me. Each passing day only deepened my anxiety. In my desperation, I decided to subtly hint at my concerns to my mother-in-law. I carefully chose my words and told her that her son hadn't yet come close to me, and if there was any underlying reason, I wanted to understand. But her reaction was nothing short of humiliating. She looked at me with sheer disbelief and sternly scolded me, telling me to keep bedroom matters confined to the bedroom and never speak of them again. I was dismissed without another word. Her response was a harsh slap of reality. But what could I possibly tell her? How could I explain the silent agony I was enduring? I craved a moment of solace, a sign that I was truly married to the man who now shared my life. But my husband refused to acknowledge my presence, let alone share any form of intimacy. I felt as if I was trapped in a loveless void, a mere shadow in his life. Slowly, despair crept into my heart. I began questioning everything. Was it something about me? Was there another reason he couldn't express his affection? The more I pondered, the darker my thoughts became. I yearned for answers, but all I received were empty nights filled with silence and loneliness. As time passed, I began to feel like a mere housemaid in their home. 3 to 4 months had passed since my marriage, yet my marital life had not even begun. This unsettling reality gnawed at me. Just as a man has his needs, a woman too harbors desires that she wishes to fulfill at the right time. But when her husband fails to meet those desires, resentment begins to brew within her, pushing her further away from him. I found myself on the brink of such detachment. One day when my husband returned home, I had already donned a hijab and sat silently. He stared at me with puzzled eyes, trying to understand why I had covered myself so suddenly. He could not hide his curiosity and finally sat beside me, asking if something had happened. "Is there a mark on your face? Is that why you're covering it?" he inquired. His words ignited a fire within me, and I could no longer hold back. With piercing eyes, I glared at him and said in a firm voice, "Stay away from me. Don't come near me. It's been months since our marriage, and you haven't even once tried to come close to me. Surely you are an impotent man, and I can no longer live my life with you. I've worn this hijab because I want to leave from my mother's house, and I demand a divorce. I cannot spend my life with a man like you." I spoke every word while looking directly into his eyes, indifferent to his reaction. I had realized that he was not a man in the true sense. A man who could not touch his wife despite sharing the same room was no man at all. My suspicions had solidified into certainty. His eyes widened in shock at my words. Without warning, he delivered a stinging slap across my face, sending my hijab falling to the floor. Grabbing my hair, he growled, "How dare you call me impotent? Women like you, driven by lust, are the ones who corrupt men. I wanted nothing to do with you, and that's why I stayed away. But I didn't realize you were nothing but a desperate woman craving a man's touch. Tonight, I will give you what you crave. Tonight, you will beg me for mercy." With those chilling words, he stormed out of the room, leaving me trembling with fear. His words sent shivers down my spine. I was terrified beyond measure, knowing that he wouldn't spare me tonight. Yet in the depths of my heart, a strange sense of relief settled. Perhaps tonight, my long-awaited desire would finally be fulfilled, and our marital life would truly begin. I had done all of this for the sake of starting my life, for establishing the relationship I had dreamed of. Before my marriage, my mother had repeatedly advised me, if you want to live a happy life with your husband, always make him happy. Never push him away when he comes close to you. Instead, welcome him, and your life will go smoothly. But here everything seemed to be reversed. I was eager to get closer to my husband, but he, for reasons unknown, was unwilling to let me in. This persistent refusal only deepened my doubts. Perhaps my fears were true. Perhaps he truly was impotent. My suspicions were further fueled by my mother-in-law's behavior. Whenever I tried to discuss my concerns with her, she would immediately scold me and dismiss the conversation. This entire situation was pushing me into a state of despair, leaving me questioning my fate and wondering what lay ahead in my uncertain, suffocating marriage. As I reflected on my mother-in-law's refusal to discuss the issue, I was certain there was something she was hiding. My reaction earlier that day had enraged my husband, and I knew my words had hurt him deeply. Yet deep inside, I felt a strange sense of satisfaction. I believed that after tonight, my life would take a turn for the better. Excited, I quickly got up and locked myself in the dressing room. I adorned myself meticulously, wearing an alluring red nightgown that hugged my body in all the right places. Tonight, I wanted to captivate my husband's attention at any cost. I gazed at myself in the mirror, blushing at my own reflection. My beauty radiated, and I felt a newfound confidence. Satisfied with my appearance, I walked out and sat gracefully, waiting for him with bated breath. Minutes turned into hours, but he didn't come. My impatience grew with each passing moment, and desire burned within me. I longed for his presence, to feel his touch, to finally begin our married life. Just when I was about to lose hope, the door creaked open. My husband entered, holding a black plastic bag. He glanced at me briefly, his eyes lingering just for a moment before he looked away. But in that fleeting second, I saw something, an undeniable spark of desire. My heart raced. Without a word, he walked straight to the wardrobe and took out 2 large bottles. I watched him closely, curiosity brimming in my eyes. The contents of the bottles puzzled me. One had a thick, maroon-colored liquid, and the other was a dark, ominous black. He opened both bottles and, without hesitation, poured a spoonful from each into his mouth. His face contorted as he swallowed, the bitterness evident from his expression. After gulping down the liquids, he sat beside me. I eagerly moved closer, but he raised his hand, signaling me to wait. "Just a few more moments," he said in a low voice. "Then I will fulfill all your desires." His words sent a shiver down my spine, and I obediently sat back, anticipation consuming me. My eyes remained fixated on his face, watching every little movement, feeling my heartbeat quicken in anticipation. Suddenly, I noticed something unsettling. His facial muscles twitched unnaturally, and the veins in his hands and feet bulged visibly. His throat seemed to pulse in an eerie way, and his eyes, those once gentle eyes, turned blood red, glowing like burning embers. A thin layer of sweat formed on his forehead, despite the cool, air-conditioned room. A wave of fear crept over me. Something was wrong. Concern replaced my excitement. Worried, I moved closer and placed my hand on his forehead. He felt warm, too warm. "Are you okay?" I asked, my voice trembling. "You don't look well." In that moment, all my desires faded away, replaced by a genuine fear for his health. But it was all an illusion. Before I could process what was happening, his hand shot out and gripped my waist tightly. In an instant, he flung me onto the bed with such force that I gasped in shock. A scream threatened to escape my lips, but before I could react, he was on top of me, his weight pinning me down. My mind spun in confusion and fear. What had just happened? What had he become? The man who once shied away from me was now a completely different person, wild, aggressive, and terrifying. I struggled beneath him, but his grip tightened. My heart pounded in my chest as I stared into his eyes, now devoid of any warmth. I realized in that moment of helplessness that I had invited something far more dangerous than loneliness into my life. A strange madness had overtaken him. He bent down, leaving marks all over my neck, and I could feel the burning pain searing through my skin. I struggled to push him away, desperate to free myself, but he wouldn't budge. My pleas for him to stop fell on deaf ears. I kept telling him that I was in pain, that his touch was hurting me. But he ignored my cries. Instead, he grabbed my face firmly and hissed, "You were so eager to be close to me, weren't you? Tonight, I will satisfy you in such a way that you'll think twice before coming near me again." His words pierced through my soul like a dagger. I couldn't understand why my husband, the man I had longed for, was speaking to me with such cruelty. Suddenly, he tore off my beautiful red nightgown, stripping me of the dignity I had adorned myself with. He began to claw at me, leaving scratches all over my body. I screamed in pain, but he didn't stop. My protest meant nothing to him. Then, without warning, his pace grew frantic, and I closed my eyes tightly, tears streaming down my face. I wanted to tell him that this was my first time, that I needed him to be gentle, but my words stuck in my throat. He showed no mercy, no tenderness. He pulled away briefly, giving me a moment to catch my breath, but before I could even recover, he was on me again. I felt like I was being crushed under an unbearable weight. It was as if he possessed the strength of 40 men, his aggression relentless and overpowering. I begged him to stop, pleaded with him to let me go, but he was deaf to my cries. That night, he took me over and over again, leaving me broken and bruised. By the time morning came, my entire body ached with an unbearable soreness. It felt as if flames were burning under my skin, and I was feverish, my strength completely drained. I couldn't even muster the energy to walk to the bathroom. Meanwhile, my husband got up as if nothing had happened and left for work without a second glance. Gathering every ounce of willpower, I dragged myself to the bathroom, cleaned up, and stumbled back to bed. I knew stepping out of the room would mean facing the household's demands, tasks they expected me to complete despite my weakened state. I lay there motionless, hoping for a moment of rest, but soon my sister-in-law entered the room. "Mother is calling you to prepare the meal," she said casually, but when her eyes fell on me, she paused. She rushed over, placing a hand on my burning forehead. "Bobby, you have a high fever," she exclaimed in concern. My sister-in-law was married and had come to stay with us with her children. Just as she was about to leave to fetch some medicine for me, I grabbed her hand, signaling her to sit down. She looked at me with confusion, but I lowered my voice and said, "I need to talk to you. Please stay for a while." Her expression turned serious. "Bobby, are you okay? What's wrong?" she asked with genuine concern. I took a deep breath, hesitated for a moment, and then finally said, "I need to know something about your brother." Her face paled instantly. A nervous flicker crossed her eyes as she stammered, "Bobby, is everything all right? Why do you want to know about him?" I could sense the tension in her voice. Something was being hidden from me, something I needed to uncover, something that might explain why my life had turned into a nightmare. My sister-in-law was my only source to uncover the secrets of my husband. I couldn't shake off the feeling that something about his past wasn't right. He was not impotent. Last night had made that painfully clear. But his behavior continued to baffle me. For most men, their wives are a source of comfort and love, yet he had kept his distance from me for months. And when I finally voiced my desires, he unleashed a fury upon me that left me shattered. Slowly, I began narrating my experiences to my sister-in-law. As she listened, shock washed over her face, and she covered her mouth in disbelief. "I can't believe it," she whispered. "My brother, he was never like this. How could he become so cruel?" She was about to say more, but I gestured for her to stay silent and continued speaking. "I know you love your brother dearly, and you might not want to tell me anything. Your mother has already made it clear that bedroom matters should remain confined within these walls. But I beg you, please tell me about his past. I need to understand him so I can find a way to make our marriage work. I'm at my breaking point. After what happened last night, staying here feels unbearable. But still, I want to try to bring him back to life." My desperate plea seemed to soften her heart. She hesitated for a moment, then finally said in a hushed tone, "My brother loved a girl once. He wanted to marry her, but our mother refused. That girl belonged to a very wealthy family and was highly educated. My mother was afraid that if they got married, she would take my brother away from us. Out of that fear, she rejected the proposal and forced my brother to marry someone of her choosing." I listened intently as she continued. "After that, my brother changed. He began resenting women, and he told our mother clearly that no matter who she chose for him, he would never accept her in his life. But my mother refused to listen, and that's why she arranged your marriage with him. For the sake of our family's honor, my brother agreed to the marriage, but he never truly accepted you in his heart. When you questioned his manhood last night, he must have lost control, unable to contain his anger any longer." Her words hit me hard. So this was the truth behind his coldness, his detachment. He was still living in the shadows of his past love, and I was just an unfortunate consequence of his mother's decision. I immediately shared something else with her. Last night he brought 2 bottles with him. He drank a spoonful from each before everything happened. He seemed different, almost possessed afterward. She let out a small, knowing smile. "Bobby, those were probably aphrodisiacs," she said. "Once my husband also went to our family's traditional healer and got the same medicine. He did exactly what you're describing after taking it." A sinking feeling crept over me. My husband hadn't acted on his own desires. He had relied on something artificial to fuel his actions. A bitter truth settled in my heart. He didn't truly want me, and perhaps he never would. I sat there, my thoughts tangled in the painful realization that I was living in a marriage built on resentment and regret. I chose to accept my husband's flaws with patience and gratitude, believing that enduring for a while longer would eventually lead to a better life. My sister-in-law's words resonated with me. She advised me to bear with it for some time, assuring me that everything would fall into place. Otherwise, regret would be my only companion. If I had just been patient, perhaps things would have changed. Understanding this, I abandoned the thought of returning to my mother's house and resolved to win my husband over at any cost. I would care for him, serve him with unwavering devotion, and make him forget the woman from his past. After all, Allah has placed immense blessings in the bond of marriage. With marriage, He instills love in the hearts of both the husband and wife. With this thought, I gathered my strength once more, determined to turn over a new leaf. I busied myself in the kitchen, preparing his favorite meal with hope in my heart. When he returned home that night, he paused in surprise, clearly expecting me to have left for my mother's house or to have exposed everything to my mother-in-law. But when he saw my smiling face, he was momentarily taken aback, wondering if I had lost my mind. I presented the food with grace, serving him with utmost care. Later in our bedroom, he looked at me with astonished eyes, confused by my demeanor. He finally broke the silence. "You're still here? I thought you'd have left by now." Smiling softly, I replied, "When I took my vows, I promised to stay with you no matter what. I won't leave your side for any reason. I am your wife, your partner in life. However you choose to treat me, I accept it. Inside, my heart wept in anguish because I knew deep down that my husband was preparing to repeat the same cruelty he had inflicted upon me before. He stared at me in silence for a moment, then walked over to the wardrobe, taking out the same medicine he had consumed the previous night. Once again, he drank from it and approached me. That night, I endured his merciless actions again. The pain was unbearable, and I could hardly move. Yet I did not withdraw, I did not resist. My persistence was slowly beginning to affect him. Over time, his aggression began to soften. The Almighty truly places blessings in marriage, and soon enough, his heart started inclining toward me. Our relationship gradually transformed into a genuine bond, and we began living a fulfilling married life. Through this journey, I have a message for all parents. When marrying off their daughters, they must carefully consider the man they are entrusting their precious flower to. Some men may appear human, but in reality, they are wolves disguised in human form. They crush their wives' spirits and suffocate their unspoken desires. Desires that a woman cannot share with just anyone. Society often assumes that only men have such desires, or that women have fewer of them. This belief is entirely false. Allah has created desires in both men and women, which is why marriage is made lawful, to fulfill them in a sacred and loving manner.